Coming up on Network Africa, Sudan's top military leader visits the site of collapsed dam that killed 60 people. Torrential rains cut off Niger's capital Niamey from the rest of the country. Plus, Denmark to close its embassies in Mali and Burkina Faso. Hello and welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us at this time. I'm Layo Olarinde. Sudan's top military leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has met with locals and first responders at the site of a dam collapse in the northeast of the country. The Arbat Dam, north of Port Sudan, burst following torrential rains in the area, washing away farms and villages downstream. According to officials for the Red Sea state, the damage was extensive and at least 60 people have died, with many more missing. The Health Ministry says resources have been deployed to the area to help people who have been stranded. This is the latest disaster to hit Sudan, which has been ravaged by war since April last year, when fighting broke out between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. Millions of people have been forced from their homes as a result of the fighting, and several of the country's states have declared famine. Now, speaking of those that have been displaced by the war in Sudan, over 748,000 refugees and asylum seekers are registered with the UNHCR in Egypt, a majority of whom are women and children who have recently arrived fleeing the brutal conflict. Authorities say since the conflict broke out, the registered Sudanese refugee population has grown almost sevenfold, and numbers are expected to keep rising. On a high-level UN mission to Egypt, Education Cannot Wait, UNHCR and UNICEF stressed the funding shortfall and also called for urgent increased international support for children that have been forcibly displaced by the armed conflict, both inside Sudan itself and in neighboring countries.
We would really like to express our sincere gratitude to the government of Egypt for adopting or allowing Sudanese and other refugees to actually enter the public schooling system once they have received their residency. This is so important because at the end of the day, we want to see them in public schools. However, until they obtain their residency, we have, through our investments, also invested in non-formal learning so that those who are waiting to be accepted into schools and get residency can continue their learning. Having said that, there is severe underfunding in order to meet the needs of the whole humanitarian response plan for the 5 refugee receiving countries. Only 20%, this is for all the 5 countries I mentioned, has been received. And when it comes to education in Egypt, supported by the international community, out of the $10.9 million required at minimum, only 4.3 million has received, with another 6.6 million in deficit. $6.6 million is required to meet the immediate needs for incoming refugees. And there are refugees arriving on a daily basis. Every month there are 9,000 school-age children arriving from Sudan to Egypt. The resources are not keeping up with the refugees that Egypt is receiving.
Well, joining us now is Juma Majanga. Juma has been following the story on the dam collapse in Sudan from Nairobi, Kenya. Hello, Juma. Thank you so much for your time. We've seen the army chief, Alburhan, visit the site of the dam burst. What message did he have for, the many people that have been affected and suffering as a result of this?
Thank you, Layo. Nice to speak with you. General Fatah's visit to the site just a day after the disaster, it was basically to show support for the people, to show empathy. We saw him there interacting with the people, listening to their narrations of the ordeal that befell them. But while visiting the site, he didn't give much of a statement. But like you mentioned, later on, the Ministry of Health issued a statement to just to state that government resources have been deployed in the area to help those affected by the disaster. But the general did not speak much, but this was largely a show of solidarity to the people affected, a show of empathy, just interacting with them, just to show that they are together and this time, this very difficult time of disaster.
No, help us understand, the grave impact this could have, especially in the midst of the conflict that's ongoing. I mean, people were already exacerbated by suffering, and now this.
You're right. I mean, today marks 500 days of relentless conflict in Sudan that has killed thousands and many millions displaced. The humanitarian crisis in Sudan is at a very high level, with mostly women and girls are the most affected in the war. I mean, so far, 18,000 people have been killed and 33,000 injured, and 10 million displaced, including 7 internally displaced rather. Sudan currently is the world's largest displacement crisis in the world. So this disaster of this magnitude happening at this point when the fighting is still ongoing, this to say that is a catastrophe will be an understatement. The situation is dire. I mean, the situation has already been compounded with the ongoing rains in the country. There's been flooding. This is not the first time that this place is flooding. Several parts of the country have been flooding over the recent past weeks. So this is just compounding the already dire situation, like you mentioned.
Well, Juma, do you know of the breakdown, of resources that the authorities say they've deployed to the area to help those who have been stranded?
Not much has been done. Just a statement that mentioned that resources have been deployed in the area. But we could see army officials with their uniforms in the area trying to helping the residents in the rescue operations and all that. So what we can see, we could see also excavators in the area trying to dig in and try to rescue people who've been affected by this. So we see army officials in the field trying to help. We see a lot of support from the military. But what stands out from this disaster is the residents themselves. I mean, we've seen locals mobilizing their own ways, trying to help one another out of this disaster. So there's no clear statement of what has been deployed there to help, but the statement says that disaster operations is ongoing in the area.
Well, finally, we know, this happened in Port Sudan, and this happens to be the base for the army. Will they be moving as a result of this?
Yeah, rightly, like you said, this dam is the biggest source of clean water in the region, and at least 20 villages have been washed away by this dam break, according to the UN. Now, there is no indication so far that the army will be moving from the base here in the region that has become the de facto administrative capital following the war that broke out in the capital earlier. So, so far, there is no indication yet that the army could be moving out. but clearly they must have been affected by this, even themselves, with this disaster. Also remember that the war is still ongoing. It's also not clear if the other side, the paramilitary, the RSF, may want to take advantage of the disaster that's going on, maybe to launch some attacks against the army. Remember, the war is still going on. But so far, I mean, it's been rather calm. The army has not indicated that it's going to move. So I think the hope of Sudanese will be that this time of disaster, the country will come together and try to address this devastating disaster, even just put a pause to the war.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Juma Mujanga, the VOA's reporter in Nairobi, Kenya.
Thank you, Lyle.
Over to South Sudan, more than 780,000 refugees and returnees have fled across the border to South Sudan since fighting erupted in Sudan in April 2023. Humanitarians are working, saying they're working hard to meet the escalating needs of those who have sought sanctuary in the town of Renk, as well as to relocate returnees who want to join their families in other parts of the country. UN peacekeepers have been deployed to a temporary base in the area to help and ensure the safe delivery of aid, provide protection, and also to deter violence among diverse communities are forced to live together in congested conditions. Well, during a visit to Renk, the UN mission in South Sudan Force Commander describes the situation as a cocktail of challenges, which is only likely to be exacerbated by the fresh threat of looming floods.
If the rains pick up, then the condition of people in our transit center and in the refugee camps and in the IDP camps will become far more adverse than what it is right now. When the misery keeps increasing and the numbers of people coming in from Sudan keeps increasing, there will come a point when there will be serious cause for security concerns, which is what we are trying to prepare in advance for.
Meanwhile, the peace process in South Sudan appears to be facing many challenges. The revitalized peace agreement signed in 2018 is yet to be fully implemented, and a critical mass of key benchmarks required to be met before the country's first democratic elections are held remain outstanding. The UN mission in the country, in participation and partnership with the African Union and Intergovernmental Authority on Development, they say they are supporting a sustained and inclusive peace, and so they are facilitating a series of dialogues across the country to enhance the civic and political space. The latest forum brought together political actors, civil society, youth and women representatives in Yambio, the capital of Western Equatoria State.
Part of the important work is in supporting and helping to build trust and confidence between political parties, all sat down together and together really discussed opening up the civic and political space in Lake State. But one of the things that they really mentioned and were very clear about is that it should not be limited only to, this forum should not be limited only to Rumbek, the municipality.
Away from South Sudan, Niger's capital is still reeling from the impact of heavy rains recorded a week ago. In the village of Ndonga Tare, about 15 kilometers from Niamey, the aftermath is still visible, with houses turned into ruins of collapsed buildings. The downpour has caused much damage, with the main road to the capital split in two, while two other roads are submerged. As a result, Niamey is cut off not only from the interior, but also from essential goods like fuel. Since last June, floods have caused nearly 200 deaths. in Niger and significant material damage. These heavy rains have also led to a shortage of certain goods following the deterioration of roads. Denmark says it will close its embassies in Mali and Burkina Faso as part of its new strategy for cooperation with the continent. The Foreign Ministry said on Monday that military coups in both countries had limited the scope for action in the Sahel region. Instead, the country now plans to open new missions in Senegal, Tunisia and Rwanda, and also to increase its diplomatic workforce in its embassies in Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana. Copenhagen says that following the closures in Bamako and Ouagadougou, it will appoint a special representative for the Great Lakes and Sahel region. Relations between the two African countries and the West have deteriorated since Mali's coup in 2020 and in Burkina Faso in 2022. Both have turned to Russia and the Wagner mercenary group for support since then. Welcome back to the program. We continue here in Nigeria in its effort to build a more resilient Lagos that is safe and livable for all. The state government has disclosed its readiness to hold a sustainability summit that will make everyone strive in their own space. This was announced by the Special Advisor on Sustainable Development Goals, Dr. Ereoluwa Fini, during a press conference at Ikeja. She says the summit coming up in September will help promote sustainable practices towards 2030.
Go out, our gentlemen of the press.
Achieving the Sustainability Development Goals is one of the major priorities of the Lagos State government. Parts of the steps taken towards the realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainability Development is the reason for this joint press conference by the Lagos State Office of Sustainability Development Goals, State Environmental Protection Agency, and the Lagos State Safety Commission to announce a new initiative that will build and achieve a resilient Lagos.
The Lagos Sustainability Summit stands as a testament to our collective resolve. It's a landmark event born from our collaborative efforts of key agencies, a testament to SDG 17. Together, we have come to the realization that the future we aspire to is not just a dream, but it is our responsibility.
Another important aspect of the forthcoming Lagos Sustainability Summit is protection of the environment.
We can immediately tell that an environment that you're not deliberate about will get to shambles. So on this, we are partnering very closely with the observance of it. I was speaking with one voice to say that all our industries and our facilities must be society compliant. I must champion that cause that will lead a better Lagos.
Safety of lives and property is also part of the government's urbanization vision.
Our promise basically is to ensure that every worker that leaves their houses in the morning can go back home safely without the fear of injury, without the fear of diseases, without the fear of death. And this is our mandate at the Safety Commission to ensure the protection of lives and property. And this is our promise.
What we plan to do in the coming year is to see the resolutions that come out of the summit, how it will be changed in each of those ministries, departments, and agencies from a budgetary point of view.
The Lagos Sustainability Summit, scheduled to hold in September, is expected to chart a course for Lagos to emerge as a model for sustainability urban development, anchored on social equity, economic prosperity, and environmental stewardship.
In the meantime, the Association of Lady Pharmacists in Lagos State has carried out free healthcare services in Makoko community to mark the annual Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria Scientific Week. The Lagos State chairman of the Association of Lady Pharmacists, Dr. Afusat Adeshina, says the exercise is to reduce HIV transmission through mother and child and also ensure universal health coverage in rural communities.
Pregnant women, nursing mothers in Makoko community are the first beneficiaries of the healthcare services organized by the Association of Lady Pharmacists, Lagos State Branch, in commemoration of the 2024 Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria Scientific Week.
PMTCT is due. We want you to access healthcare.
They are here to pass the message of universal health coverage, carry out free medical services for the women to ensure they are safe during and after the pregnancy stage.
The theme for this year PS10 Scientific Weekends, imperative of the march towards achieving the universal health coverage in Nigeria.
The health practitioners also encourage expectant mothers to register for antenatal to prevent mother-to-child route of HIV transmission.
PMTCT is a cornerstone of maternal and child health services and as an essential component of our healthcare systems. Efforts to reduce burden of HIV and ensure that all children are born HIV-free. Next second.
We advocate that all pregnant mothers should visit a general hospital to know their status, and that is their HIV status before giving birth to a baby. Why are we saying this? We want to prevent mother-to-child transmission of HIV. HIV can be in the body of a person, and the person will still be living hell and active.
Apart from the healthcare services partnership with the state health management system, there's also a concern on the issue of fake drugs.
Fake drugs, and the solution is actually the distribution system. If we can, stop the chaotic distribution system of drugs, in fact, it will solve the problem of fake drugs.
Most importantly, we collaborated with Lashma Ilera Eko, and Lashma has been able to give 100 free services to the women here, and for apps we are supporting them too. We have also brought our mama packs. You can see we distributed to pregnant mothers and even nursing mothers with basic delivery items.
The week-long program by the Association of Lady Pharmacists in PSN is to help women in hard-to-reach communities have access to universal health coverage by registering with the Lagos State Health Insurance Scheme called Ilera Eco.
Still on health matters, but in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the government says it no longer expects to receive its first delivery of Mpox vaccines this week, as global health authorities say the spread of the disease can still be contained. Chris Casita, head of the country's response team, says there are still several processes to follow, which includes the Congolese Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency being in touch with the Danish drug maker Bavarian Nordic for guidance before the vaccines arrive. The World Health Organization said in a statement on Monday that the virus can still be prevented from spreading further, but doing so requires a coordinated response. The announcement came as health authorities struggle to roll back the virus, which the WHO this month declared a global public health emergency for the second time in as many years. While the vast majority of cases are concentrated in the Democratic Republic of Congo, other nations in Africa, Asia, and Europe have reported cases. In southern Africa, 9 men have died when a large pile of gravel collapsed on them while they were working in a quarry in Zambia. Police say the men were operating illegally in the quarry and were loading gravel onto a truck. However, the driver of the truck survived with injuries and was taken to the hospital. The collapse happened on Sunday in Chongwe, about 50 kilometers east of the capital, Lusaka. 8 bodies were recovered on Sunday before the rescue operation was suspended, and the 9th body was pulled out on Monday. Well, the country has had several fatal accidents involving men operating illegally in quarries or mines. In December, nearly 30 informal miners died at an open-pit copper mine in the north of the country when heavy rains triggered landslides that buried them alive inside tunnels. The South African motorists can look forward to significant relief at the fuel pumps next month. A stronger rand coupled with lower oil prices is set to drive down the cost of petrol and diesel. Fuel prices in South Africa are mainly influenced by the global price of oil and the rand-dollar exchange rate, as the majority of the country's fuel is imported. While taxes are added to the price of fuel at the pump, these have remained stable for the past 3 years. In the meantime, the chief economist at Econometrics, Dr. Azza Jemine, says inflation might drop below 5% in the coming months. And we end the program in Morocco, where a cyclist is riding at high speed along a circular wall, defying the laws of gravity as they move diagonally across the wall. According to them, they rely on the centrifugal force to maintain their balance. They're circling what they call the Wall of Death, considered to be one of the most thrilling and exciting sports performances, combining daring and defiance in a dangerous situation that requires exceptional skill and riding courage. Well, this sport has its origins decades ago and has been linked to various cultures around the globe, where drivers push the limits of their abilities on motorcycles or small cars on a circular track with vertical walls known as the Wall of Death. That's where we end the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.